So the first list I did on this channel was 10 wrestlers not benefiting from Triple H, and you lot blew it up and I can't thank you enough for it. Reddit posts, a war in the comments, and a crazy amount of views for an upstart, and I finally realized I never gave you a video about the other side. We never spoke about the AEW roster and some wrestlers Big Tony hasn't used to their full potential. Well, you want it? I'm Toby King, this is the main event, and these are 10 wrestlers not benefiting from Tony Khan. But first, remember to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for more notifications when a video goes live. Back to the list. Number 10, Wardo. Back in my 10 wrestlers that should be AEW champion video, I pointed out we're all living in Wardlow's world, and it was somewhere between Jupiter and Saturn. Turns out I got the coordinates wrong, and it's a lot further away as we haven't seen him in such a long time. It's been a weird old time for Wardlow, coming into the company with a brilliant slow burn storyline being MJF's bodyguard, until he finally had a change of heart, turning on the now world champion at Revolution 2022. From there it's been up and down consistently. After squashing the life out of Max at Double or Nothing, he went into some strange rivalries, especially the one with the AEW security. He later picked up the TNT title, and his run in the best way was a whole lot of nothing. After losing the belt to Joe in a triple threat also featuring Powerhouse Hobbs, he went on to have 2 TV matches in just under 4 months. On return, we had a huge mess surrounding the TNT title. Wardlow beats Joe for the title. Next show, Hobbs beats him for the belt. Then in Wardlow's next match, he beats Hobbs for the title. What? We last saw him on TV on the debut episode of Collision, losing the TNT title to Luchasaurus. Rumor has injury or gimmick change surrounding, but it feels like Tony knew how to end the MJF storyline, then didn't think where to go after that, which is a shame as Wardo was a talent that felt like he was growing consistently in the ring and with the crowd. Number 9, Johnny TV. It's only been a few months since Johnny What's His Name this time debuted at AEW Rampage, joining QTV, and it's been a win in his debut tag match with QT Marshall against Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy, then a loss the week after to the Acclaimed. He then had a failed attempt at the International Championship when Orange Cassidy was on his legendary run, and apart from a dark match against Brandon Cutler recently, that's it. Absolutely nothing else has happened with him in AEW. It's strange because someone used this sporadically doesn't really get a spot on the official website's roster page, but nope, he's there. But it doesn't feel like he is all elite. He feels like a part-time attraction coming in rarely, which is shocking because he's just so good. We all know Johnny's credentials and that he is always impressive in the ring, and he could also work fantastically as enhancement talent for other wrestlers you want to build, and will still give great matches anyway, but it looks like Tony hired him for the sake of hiring him. But no one shows this may be the case more than Johnny TV. Number 8, Preston Vance. Remember 10, a fantastic young wrestler under a mask in the very popular at the time Dark Order. You do? Good, because he was great. Ever since turning heel and leaving the stable to join Rush in La Facción Ingobernables, the momentum Preston was building felt dwindled. Often taken as the fall guy in tag team matches, he now feels more like a bodyguard for Rush more than a hot prospect. This seems to be a common occurrence with Tony and quite a bit of the young talent. They look great but never usually win matches unless it was on Dark or Elevation when that was around, or now on Ring of Honor. Give them some decisive wins on the main shows, Tony. Preston Vance being one of them. Number 7, Artiz. Now, I don't enjoy this one because I do love Artiz, but ever since fellow Proud and Powerful member Santana was injured in the Blood and Guts 2022 match, Artiz has been kind of doing nothing. Sure, he had a little story with Eddie Kingston in the House of Black leading him to falling out with the former, but nothing else has really happened. It's really a shame because Artiz is solid, great on the mic, and a really competent wrestler. He could have handled himself in the ring, but unlike other wrestlers whose partners get injured, Artiz unfortunately hasn't really been given the chance by Tony to show himself off as a single star. Reports came out that Santana and Artiz had fallen out and no longer wanted to tag together. Luckily, on Santana's return, we saw them work together with the Blackpool Combat Club at Wembley Stadium in the Stadium Stampede match, but now following some tweets and a video about Santana, it looks like Proud and Powerful won't be reforming. Santana will be fine. He's shown himself as a solid singles wrestler in other indie companies, but with how Artiz was treated when he could have been pushed really hard, it's more than likely not going to happen for him anytime soon. Number 6, Scorpio Sky.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Oh, I remember the good old days. Scorpio Sky used to say these words when he ran with Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels and SCU. He was incredibly over on the indies, and it felt like he would be a breakout star when he finally left the group, but let's be honest, he never really got the big break. His start in AEW was awesome as he had some great matches. He can also claim he and Kaz were the first tag team champions, which is a great accomplishment, but Tony kind of bottled it there creatively with him. Wait, Angry Mark has something to say? But Toby, Scorpio Sky went on to win the TNT Championship twice. Well, thank you, Mark, for that input, but let's be honest, the title wasn't really the main focus of his storylines. When SCU split, he went on into the Men of the Year partnership with Ethan Page, which itself made a great team, but it was also with American top team leader Dan Lambert. While in the group's rivalry with the Inner Circle and winning the TNT title twice after trading with Sammy Guevara, Sky still never felt like he was anything of main importance. After losing the title to Wardo in 2022, he disappeared from our screens. Injuries and storyline issues took him away from us. Then finally, 1 year and a few hype videos later, we saw Scorpio return on the 4th edition of Collision, beating Action Andretti, and yeah, he's gone again. He briefly featured at All Out in the over-budget Battle Royal, but yeah, it feels like Tony has nothing for him. Number 5, Andrade El Idolo. Okay, heads up, you lot may not like the next 4 entries, and that's okay. You're allowed your opinion. Put them in the comments. But let's focus on Andrade. Here's a guy who's had a strange time in AEW. Whether it's something Tony has done creatively or whether it's him having fights backstage with people, he debuts in the most strange way with who else but Vicky Guerrero introducing him and people not actually understanding whose name she shouted. From there, it was just mediocre lower mid-card storylines with Matt Hardy and people associated. Sure, there has been some great matches such as his Atlanta Street fight with Cody Rhodes and the Coffin match with Darby Allin, but there has been nothing really of substance there. Nothing to really dig your teeth into which could grow Andrade's career. There was a 9-month break between his last pay-per-view appearance at All Out 2022 till he made his return to TV on the debut edition of Collision in June 2023, where he received a huge pop in a fantastic match with Buddy Murphy. This stemmed into what should have been a fantastic rivalry with the House of Black, but after 3 matches, it was done. Again, all great matches, but it was a quickie. Now 2 months later, we haven't really seen anything of Andrade, which shocks me, especially as Collision has seemed to be growing stars fast. Take a look at the Bang Bang Gang. They're just becoming more and more popular, and it feels like Tony has shot it in the foot with Andrade. Number 4, Daniel Garcia. This guy is a wrestler. We have seen this over the past year or so with young Daniel Garcia. Coming up with the former 2.0, then joining the Jericho Appreciation Society, Garcia began to grow in people's eyes and a lot of people were speaking about him. Then his little rivalry with Bryan Danielson happened and he escalated to a big name in the company. Both names were getting a win over each other and the crowd started chanting, "You're a wrestler," when it looked like he was about to turn face and join the Blackpool Combat Club. Yeah, that didn't happen, and from there, Garcia fell into a pit of nothing. He hasn't really had any big storylines and has more fallen down to being Sammy Guevara's tag partner. Now the JAS have split, it's hard to see what the trajectory is for Garcia right now. The only thing he really has going for him currently is his silly dance. Sure, it keeps him slightly relevant, but just like Wardlow earlier in the list, it looked like Tony had booked him to the point of becoming one of the company's biggest stars, but unfortunately had nothing from there. It's really a shame because he has a very high ceiling and will hopefully replicate them heights in the future. Number 3, Hook.
Send Hook!
These were 2 words said by CM Punk which put all eyes on ECW legend Taz's son, and he went on to have one of the best rookie years in wrestling. A great undefeated streak which had him win the FTW Championship off Ricky Starks. Sure, a lot of these matches were with enhancement talent, but he still had a great showing all whilst not cutting a single promo. We have seen some interesting stories with Hook, whether it was with Hookhausen or his little rivalry with Ethan Page. It all led to some great moments, but that's all we have with him. Moments. There's not really been a story to elevate him up the card to the next level. Sure, there is the Jack Perry rivalry, but let's be honest, it was kind of lackluster and overshadowed by Perry's whole issue with CM Punk. And also, keeping the FTW Championship does make sense. It is his dad's belt, but maybe it's time to get him away from an unrecognized title and onto actual belts like the International or TNT Championships. There was a rumor that WWE was also interested in Hook. If I was him, I would maybe show my interest back. Number 2, Sammy Guevara. Sammy is easily one of the best ring talents in the whole of AEW, but what has he really done? He's won the TNT title 3 times. Okay, but they're all very short-lived runs. He took part in the 4 Pillars AEW Championship match at Double or Nothing, but he didn't win, nor is he a pillar that truly feels like one. He has a great ongoing storyline with Chris Jericho. That's all Sammy really has had since the start of AEW, being alongside Chris Jericho. Through all the times they've tried to break him apart to do his own thing, whether it is 3 TNT title runs, his heel run with his wife Ty Mello, or him challenging for the AEW World Championship, all these paths paths and potential storylines lead back to the same thing, being Chris Jericho's bitch. I totally get having a friendship that never ends storyline in wrestling, but when every time they've got together over the past 2 or so years they tease one turning on the other and then they're just friends again, it gets quite old. Tony needs their coming match at Grand Slam to be the end of the partnership for quite a while and give Sammy a load of good storylines on his own. If you want him to be a pillar of the company, give him things to do to show that, not just show him being a pillar hoisting up Jericho. Number 1, the entire women's roster. You may have been shocked that there wasn't any women said on this list. Well, here you go. You can have them all, as there isn't anything done dirty in AEW more than the female roster, and Tony Khan is to blame. There are questions always asked about how Tony books the women on the TV shows. Why is there one match? Tony doesn't care. Why are there barely any women's segments on AEW? Tony doesn't care. Why are there? Tony doesn't care. We all know he's an analytics guy, and that seems to be one of the downfalls of his decision not to use women on his show. He recently spoke about how the numbers don't do well when women have matches on the program, so there isn't any need to build compelling stories around them. Well, speaking as a fan, I will make a point. You can't get people interested in the women's division if you aren't giving them a reason to. Give them a big storyline on the level of Hangman versus Kenny or Punk versus MJF. See the interest rise and the numbers grow. There are plenty of fantastic females on the roster and they feel severely let down by the booking, and it's sad. We've all heard there is talks about bringing Mercedes Moné in, and people thought this could bring change. Seriously? Saraya didn't bring change. Tony Storm didn't. Taya Valkyrie didn't. Mercedes won't either. As long as Tony is booking the women's division and stuck in his analytic mindset, chances won't be taken and the women's division will still be underutilized. And that's the list. Is there any more wrestlers that you think should have been here? Let me know in the comments and we may do a commenters edition. Remember to like the video and subscribe for more lists like this. Thank you for watching. I'm Toby King and I'll see you in the main event.